I first got to know Ed, I just wanted to share in 2020 when I was laid off in March 2020, along with, what was it, 18, 20 million people. It was a crazy time to be looking for a new job. And without knowing anything about me, Ed invited me to be a guest on his podcast just because I posted on LinkedIn about what I was going through. So, Ed, I have never forgotten that. I won't. Ellis, I see you're also on. You did the same thing at the time, so I just wanted to give you a shout out because both of you actually helped give me some airtime, and I ended up getting a new job not long after that layoff. So I really appreciate that. And through your podcast and your varied work experience, you have a ton of industry perspective and wisdom to share. So, and I know you're the kind of guy who's always willing to share what you're up to. So thanks for being here today.
So you're saying I'm a little bit opinionated.
And you are also opinionated, but we're here to share opinions. How are we going to
Oh
learn
yeah,
about the
right. That's
industry?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me give a background behind me. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, and thanks, Sarah, for remembering that. And I'm glad to have helped you. Um, so yeah. So anyhow, I've been a tech writer since 1994. I live 10 miles west of Times Square, so my career has been mostly in New York City and across the Hudson River in Jersey City. Right now, I am a contract technical writer at Insulet Corporation, which is a medical device corporation. I just started there 4 weeks ago. This is the end of my fourth week. I'm involved in an implementation project with that involves some of our friends at Scriptorium. So I've worked for a medium-sized software company, a small software company, and for 13 years, I worked for a small startup called Goldman Sachs in New York City. So that's a little bit about my career. About 6 months ago, well, I left Goldman after 13 years in May of last year and took a 6-month contract job that ended at 6 months. I'll leave it there. So there's a long bit of time between this and my contract. So I think that's, Sarah, what you wanted me to kind of talk about, and not AI necessarily.
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear about your job transitions, your recent job transitions specifically, especially in the context of your previous jobs. Just curious to hear more about your perspective, the journey you went through in terms of what it's like to look for a new job out there, both in terms of your observations on the job market, in terms of what do the roles look like? Do they look different than they used to? What about applying to jobs? Is how we're finding and what are the expectations for job applications? Just curious to hear your observations and what you think made you successful with getting your current gig.
TLDR, it was networking and putting myself out there. So that's so if you have something to do, that's my talk. Thanks, Frank, for coming. Um, but really, honestly, you know, I was very fortunate in my career that I'd only been unemployed for 4 months up until last year. So at the end of December, we parted ways with that contract, and I was not upset, nor was I surprised. Um, and then, of course, it just happened to be a really, really, really bad time for tech writers and people in technology and job hunting. So I assumed it was going to take a while. It took about 10 months. And, I'll be honest with you, there were some down months like July and June last year were pretty difficult for me mentally. So it takes a toll. But the big thing for me, and kind of, I saw the writing on the wall that that contract was going to be extended. So I kind of made myself a plan in case I was laid off. And I had a short-term plan and a long-term plan. Basically, my short-term plan was to completely revamp my website. I had built my site in WordPress, and that was several iterations, but I really hadn't updated it or design in 10 years. So, oh, and I should talk about my podcast. I forgot about that part.
I was going to
Um,
ask you about it anyway, but yeah, go on.
Yes. So, and also during that time, basically my site started out as a blog. Then in 2015, I started the Content podcast, which Sarah referenced. Several people on this call, including our friend Carlos um, and others who I'm looking through right now, have been on there. And that was a plan B. That was a longer term strategy, was to reboot the podcast if I still had time and was still looking for a job. But first thing first was to completely revamp my website. And what I wanted to do is continue to learn and keep my skills up while I was job hunting. So what I did is took my old WordPress site, and I didn't need all the complexity of WordPress anymore. So long story short, I completely rebuilt my site in a static site generator called 11D. Went to a Docs as code approach because I worked in that most recently at Goldman. And I learned about hosting and site hosting. I learned about so many things. I learned about templating languages. And the thing about it too was my goal was when it launched was to be a living portfolio. So basically, I went through that process as a learning experience and also blogged about it along the way. So I had current writing examples that I plan to trickle out over the course of several weeks and several months about the process that would drive some traffic and also give me a portfolio that people could look at and say, hey, this is recent stuff that I've just worked on, and here's kind of what I can do for you, kind of thing. Long story short, it worked. The hiring manager that hired me told me that basically out of 200 applications, she'll get 30 that have a portfolio site on their resume, and she goes and checks it right away. Like she checked it, and actually she set up the appointment with me um, a G-chat call, and I didn't have the link because it turned out that she actually went to my contact me and schedule time link that no one had ever used before. So that was interesting, but it was also interesting to see that it worked. So that was, so I kept those skills up, learned something new, and now I have something else in my skill set to pull from because I've always been interested in the technological technology side of things of technical writing, not just the writing side of it. So um, I'll shut up there for a second.
So that's great story, Ed. Thanks for sharing. I think that's can be exemplary and inspiring for a lot of the folks who already shared earlier that they're looking for work. What a great approach. Sounds like quite diversified and really taking on the perspective of advancing your skills and representing yourself throughout the job search. You're not just throwing your resume into a pile. You're being very
Oh, I did that too.
sure, why not? I said not just, right? Because why not? But very intentional and deliberate with being strategic of how are you going to get yourself noticed? How are you going to be stand out from other candidates? How are you going to give potential hiring managers confidence that you're the right choice and showing it, not just having a piece of paper that describes it. So really,
Exactly.
really great example.
And
And
also to
congratulations. Mhm.
to tie back to the AI thing that we're talking about, basically I vibe coded my site with LLMs. One of the things I also did was, and I mentioned it in the chat before, was I downloaded self-hosted LLMs. We're using Ollama and LM Studio to see exactly what they do and like, hey, what can we tech writers do with it? And also I have a powerful custom gaming PC and it strains the hell out of it. So AI, just to take notice the amount of resources it takes and to learn about that was a big thing. And also I vibe coded it. I use it for my resume for various things. And to be honest with you, I thought my resume was pretty good until I showed it to Jack Molisani and he just destroyed it. So there is importance of people in this thing. AI will only give you what it feeds to you, what you feed to it, basically. So that's where the human in the loop comes into play. And even as a writer, I was honestly a little pissed that Jack was like, took my resume. I'm like, hey, I'm a writer. I know how to do this shit. And Jack was like, no, you really don't. So it helps to have that network of friends. It helps to play with AI and learn about it.
Wonderful, Ed. Thanks so much for sharing. Really appreciate your transparency with what you went through and your approach. And I think that's going to be really useful to other people. And whether people are job hunting now or not, I think your approach in terms of having a portfolio website, challenging yourself to learn new skills, figuring out how to actually demonstrate that in your own digital footprint that you control, really inspiring. And thank you for sharing.
Oh, and you can see that at edmarsh.com.
Perfect.